大家好，我是巴特曼。前两期节目中，我们看了看今年德国莱比锡玩具展上各种精致的模型，特别是火车模型以及火柴盒的合金小车。听 Dirk 和 Paul 讲了讲关于火柴盒的一些很有意思的幕后故事。这次在来莱比锡之前呢，我也发了一条动态，因为知道可以遇到火柴盒的设计师 Abe Lugo， 所以向大家征集了一些大家比较感兴趣的想问这位设计师的问题我整理了一下，对 Abe 进行了一次简单的采访。这里也特别感谢 Abe， 虽然估计他也听不懂因为我是周日就要离开莱比锡了 ，Abe 呢是周六才到。当天下午他还得在展厅里边参加签名活动晚上还有火柴盒玩家聚会晚宴和拍卖会。所有活动都结束之后，都晚上11点多了，最后还是在他的酒店房间里边进行了这次小采访。下面呢，我们就先请 Abe 来给我们做一个简单的 short introduction about himself. Abe, please.
Hello, this is Abe Lugo. I'm the Matchbox designer currently, the lead designer, and I work on die-cast vehicles with the Basics line. I've been working for Mattel close to 10 years. I've done Hot Wheels in the past. That's where I started doing 1/64 scale die-cast. In 2013, I did my first Matchbox vehicle. It's the lunch truck. And around late 2015, I took over the Matchbox line, and I'm the guy that's been doing it ever since. And I guess I'm considered the main designer for Matchbox Basics and diecast worlds.
Cool. So before I came here this year, I collected some questions from my followers, subscribers. They're also really interested in the Matchbox diecast model, about the collecting and what's happening there. And I collect some questions from them. So now maybe it's time, let's solve them. The first question is, we know that some of the Matchbox models have mirrors, some don't. Yeah. How you decided?
That's a funny question.
Yeah.
Sometimes it has to do with the design of the vehicle. Lately, I've been trying to put mirrors in most all vehicles, so that keeps it more real, right? But some vehicles, the mirrors don't lend themselves to be tooled correctly. So you'll see that the mirror back doesn't look correct. And it's called an undercut, where it won't pull from the tool even with slides. So they have up-down tools and slide tools. And a lot of times you'll see that we have to shorten the mirrors because of pointy issues. I can't recall a recent one right now on the top of my head, but most times I think the trucks don't have mirrors most times. Most vehicles like Bmw, Mercedes, or high-end, we try to keep the mirrors. That's a good question. Vintage cars have different types of mirrors. They're usually round and they're hard to do, so those most times. And also another consideration is when you do a deco on the side of a vehicle and you know you're going to do it, you have to notch the deco.
I see.
So then you have an incomplete hit. It's a design decision sometimes, and sometimes if the car looks funny without the mirrors, then you have to add the mirrors. So that's a very good question.
Okay, so it's not something random. I like this model.
Licensor could ask for the mirrors, but sometimes we leave them off. One case that I know is the new Ram truck in the 2019. We didn't put the mirrors in by accident, and after we did the tooling, I wish I would have had the mirrors. It looks better with mirrors because we did it previously in 2016. But if the licensor asks for the mirrors, we have to put the mirrors as best we can. So, yeah.
The second question is, people are really excited that the moving parts are coming back to Matchbox. But can you share a bit more information about this basic production line? It's like, will it be a long-term release or just this year or next year? Is there a special car category this production line is focusing on, or like will there be original models in these basic class?
I think for the most part we're going to try to do all licensed models so that'll answer that. Very rare will it be a unlicensed or original. The Opening Doors or Basics Plus was started late in the year, in the late 2017. So the tooling cycle was already off by 6 months. So what was supposed to be mix 1 and 2 got pushed back. So it's ending up being fall, very late fall, but really spring 2019. So it's very late fall. So we're getting mix 1 probably in November of 2018. So it's very, very late by the time it shows up everywhere. Part of the question was particular.
Yeah,
models?
they're focusing on some models like muscle cars or racing
so early on,
cars.
Early on, I was doing more favorites, like, but then we pulled back vintage, and it's going to be more modern. Part of it was looking at the majorette vehicles and how they have a lot of modern, but for us, bringing it back was to bring back the heritage end of it. So if you look at the vehicles the first vehicles we chose were what were considered the most popular Matchbox and the original opening doors. So the original opening doors Matchbox vehicle is the Mercedes SE, the 200 SE, I believe, with opening doors. It was the first one. So boom, we went to the back in the past and pulled the original one. And then the next one that was a very popular model was a Pontiac GP, which is about 1963 or 64. So that one we improved on it, so we made it more to scale because that one's a little squash. And then we brought back the Volkswagen 1600 TL, which universally loved Volkswagen vehicles, so I actually enjoyed having to bring that one back. But then the rest of the line gets kind of, there's some modern cars, there's some vintage oddball. But Matchbox is known for doing weird vintage sometimes.
Okay.
But the like the Bmw I8 was one of the goals because we wanted to do different types of opening doors, not just opening doors, but different things that opened. And the most challenging was the i8 and the Tesla X. Tesla X will have the gull wing doors. The i8 is going to have butterfly doors. But it's really hard to get that scale with opening doors. One of the weird ones is the American car, the Ford Crown Victoria Police, and that's got rear opening doors, but the interior is difficult, just because you have to hide the mechanism.
Yeah.
You don't see that very often. And then the rest are pretty traditional. We have like the Camaro with the opening hood, the Willys station wagon opening doors. There is a couple of vintage, like the 1983 Pontiac or Buick Riviera. It's a convertible, so it's opening. That one's reference to an old movie or a recent movie, La La Land. If you watch the movie La La Land, you'll know that the main character has the same car.
Okay.
It's just a reference, though. Then there's one car that you're going to see that's a 30s custom car. It's like a sedan delivery. It's going to be a lot of die-cast opening doors. But if you know your custom car history, then you'll find that one in there. But it's going to be mostly modern after that. So you'll see that we're going to try to do doors or opening pieces that are different. What else? What else part of it? It's going to go for
long-term release?
We're trying for long-term. Everything, if it's successful, long-term,
okay.
Right? We're going to be at Walmart and whoever else orders it. It looks good. Looks good. The packaging may change to inform the consumer of the opening part value.
Yeah, sure.
But it still relates to the new style of the package. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I think that answers most of the question.
Cool. Thank you. And by the way, the BMW I8 also have a strange way of opening the door.
Which one? The
BMW I8, the
old that's a good one.
Three-wheeler.
Yeah.
Which opened
and it would just be one
fun.
Piece opening. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really.
It's a good idea.
Interesting, right?
Interesting idea. Yeah.
Cool. So the third question is: we see the moving parts are coming back to Matchbox. Will there be a chance that the suspensions also coming back to the models?
The suspension, original super fast era suspension with the spring, more than likely not. It's a fair question. I think that there is maybe one or two models that has a plastic style suspension. One, I forget, the Baja Bandit has a plastic style suspension. But the way that costs have challenged us, you know, you can see that we don't have VUM so much anymore. But we can look at it, but I can't promise it.
Sure.
If we designed it into the interior, the way we've done in recent past, then maybe we can look at suspension. But full suspension is probably a little. I'd like to have it because it'd make it nice to have the bounce and everything. But I don't think it's something that is like top priority.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I would have chrome before suspension, right?
Yeah.
But it also depends on the vehicle. Unless we did a line with suspension that was all about suspension. So, but you know, you can always see what's next. Yeah.
Okay, I see. Thanks. And the next question is, we know that Matchbox are targeting more adult collectors or grown-up collectors. Is that the reason why there's not that many tracks released for the Matchbox?
They're trying to build the playset world. So there's 2 playsets that came out last year for the fall 2018 year. There were the fire playset and I can't even remember the second one. The construction playset.
Okay.
So there's those 2 playsets, and they missed the boat again. So for spring, so fall 2019 is going to have 1 playset. It's a jungle playset. As far as going to tracks, routes, we can't play in that area because of Hot Wheels. I'll just say it. You know, anything with speed, tracks, but we can play in playset sets or adventures, and that's where we're taking it. We're trying to be realistic adventures as opposed to crazy out there. So as long as there is realism and a slight suspension of disbelief, which is like could happen in the real world, then we look at those things, and we're looking at making more playsets too. So it's not totally gone away, but actually our core is considered the younger kid, and then if we start making more collectibles, it is the older adult collector. But I think that's probably like 15, actually between 20 and 10% adult collector. The rest should be all kid product. So yeah.
And so the last question is, can you share with us some stories like how you become a Matchbox designer? Yeah.
Wow. Just in general, I grew up in automotive. My father was an auto mechanic, and he didn't want me to be an auto mechanic because it's like a dirty job.
Okay.
But my inspiration was vehicles, because of heritage for me, and then art, because I liked art from being younger. And then when I found my focus was into vehicle, actually in high school I saw a video of designing Hot Wheels. That was an early inspiration, and one of the designers is still there, and Larry Wood were in that video. And I thought it was interesting that you can color in cars. It was like coloring book school, right? And that was in the back of my head. I went to art school, and in art school they offered toy design. In toy design, I liked toys, but then I also liked industrial design. I liked vehicles, but I knew being an automotive designer was going to be way more challenging than you really want to be. Yeah. So toy design was more somewhere in the realm of making something fun, making vehicles, as that was always a consideration. I ended up at a company called Jack Specific. Jack Specific did Road Champs diecast, and I ended up doing 1/43rd scale vehicles for Road Champs, and early diecast. That was my first stuff in diecast. I did that for about 7 years. And then I moved on to Mattel, and I did Tyco RC. Tyco RC was a vehicle radio control, and I did slot car track sets for them also. In the background, since Mattel owned Tyco RC, I knew that Hot Wheels, that was my motivation, is to get to Hot Wheels. And in Hot Wheels, I had made friends, and they let me do castings for fun as a side work. I learned how to do die castings with them and figure out the Hot Wheels formula. Hot Wheels formula showed you how to make it from scratch, And then right around, that was between 2009 and 2015, I was in Hot Wheels for a while. And Hot Wheels Innovation, and I did a lot of RC and diecast during that time. And then in the late 2014, I went into full Matchbox plastics. So I did any Matchbox plastics from around 2014 to 2016. Big plastic vehicles, I did those. Also, around 2013, 2015, I started doing diecast for Matchbox. And some of the designers from Matchbox were leaving, and they were showing me how they were doing their things. And in late 2016, I think 2015, 2016, I just took over the line. In general, doing diecast, you gotta have the motivation for vehicles.
Sure.
You can't, and I'll talk to everybody since it's a lot of people. You gotta love all kinds of vehicles. And I'll tell you that I like hot rods, American hot rods. Or American 30s to 50s cars, 1950s, 1930s, really specific era. But I also like modern cars for different reasons, and within the world of Matchbox, you got to learn eras of cars, you got to learn types of vehicles, service vehicles, airplanes, microcars, sports cars, Land Rovers, Jeeps. I learned names for cars that I never think I would have to know, and it's part of the job. So that's my motivation. Is I like vehicles, different formats. You can appreciate vehicles and then appreciate the stories behind the vehicles. So like every vehicle has a story, and for me in the background, because I basically set the decoration I get to pick all that. I have to think about different reasons why each car is a certain color, and if it has livery or deco, that's a certain story. Besides the segment that it falls into, like if it's rescue or construction, I have to look at the tooling and see how many colors it's come in, because there's collectors that collect every color, or there's people that like cars always in red. So you have to look at all those things, and all those things add up into the line overall. So for next year, I'll have a list of all the cars, and I go through, and then I have to look at each mix, make sure each mix has a good ratio of colors, and it's not all red or all blue, and then double check that those tools have never shown up in those. It's a lot of math, but I like to do that. I like to pick colors, and I like to understand why it's the color. And then in the background, I'm working on the new tools. So new tools, it's a whole separate thing. Like you gotta understand the scale, understand why you're getting to where you're going, and I think that's what keeps me motivated for Matchbox, is that there's different reasons for being, and it's not always the same. It's like a different problem you have to solve every time. So yeah. I think that's about it.
Sounds quite a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. Thanks for tuning in, and hopefully the work that I do is appreciated by you guys, and keep collecting. We'll eventually show up in China, and I'll make sure I voice it up to everybody, and it's just like find an outlet. If you're wanting to do this sort of thing, find a place that you can pursue what you want to do. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks again, Abe.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
好了，以上呢就是我们今天的节目了。这次来莱比锡玩具展真的是很长见识啊，看到了很多有意思的玩具，遇到了很多有意思的人，收获不少啊。以上3期节目就是所有关于我们这次德国莱比锡玩具展的节目了。喜欢我的节目的话呢，也欢迎你订阅我的视频频道，关注我的新浪微博，我是巴特曼。我们下期节目再见喽，拜拜。